Allied health is similar around the world. We have a lack of understanding about who actually is allied health, and that's in Australia, it's in Hong Kong, it's in Japan, it's in America. It really depends on which university you are trained at as to whether you're called allied health, which hospital you've worked at. So I don't think we're different. And it's certainly for an allied health researcher who's been in the field a long time, it's hard to know for me who is allied health, let alone develop policy for allied health.
In saying that, though, it obviously sounds like it's quite a broad brush, the term allied health. But do we need kind of a lead from government to try and define that?
I think we do. When government talks about allied health, they're generally talking about the therapies, the people who treat. But we have people who diagnose, for instance, audiologists. We have people who manufacture, like prosthetists and orthotists. We have people who help to organise things, like social workers who don't necessarily treat. So probably the easiest way to define allied health is, do you do any one of the tasks?
Look, allied healthcare has been a very important part of the value proposition for private health insurance. I think the other area that we're very focused in, which Mark alluded to, is the focus on chronic disease. We see allied healthcare as being absolutely critical. So it's very much in concert with the medical home concept. I think allied healthcare is just absolutely critical.
35% of Australians have got a chronic condition. 1 in 2 Australians aged 65 years and over report having 5 or more chronic conditions. So that's the group we've got to focus on. Over the next 5 years, the Commonwealth will spend in excess of $100 billion in its contribution to the public hospital system, and the states collectively will spend more than that. The growth in overall hospital expenditure per annum runs at around about 6.5% to 7% per annum. Now that's above the prevailing rate of inflation. It's above the annual growth rate in population overall. So with those sorts of figures, the focus of the government, and indeed the state and territory governments, and indeed the insurers, is to progressively reduce over time the numbers of people that will attend a hospital unnecessarily, and indeed many of the state governments are made to dampen down growth in demand through good quality preventative care, good quality risk management. We will not be able to contain readily the long-term growth in healthcare costs, and I think that would be a matter of great concern to individuals. Economies do well when you have as many individuals able to complete their education, complete their training, go to work, reduce absenteeism and make a productive contribution. That's what makes healthy economies. And a strong balance between preventative care and curative care is essential to keep our economy strong and growing.
The GP as the gatekeeper is something that I really think we need to relook at. Often the cases that I've heard of, seen in our research, where the visits to the GPs have cost quite a lot of money. And if it's not well used in terms of disseminating that knowledge out into the right allocation of allied health providers, then it's not money well spent. So our frustration in allied health is that the money is there. It's being spent badly.
Look, I think Australia is actually very well served by its primary healthcare sector. I think we've got very highly trained GPs. While there are some areas that Australia can improve in its overall healthcare system, we do have a strong primary healthcare sector, and we need to build that up.
The election campaign highlighted, I think, the value of Medicare for the Australian population, which we obviously support. We don't have a two-tiered healthcare system, and we think that's universal healthcare is a really good thing.
From the allied health perspective, we're generally quite cynical, and we see reforms as being the Titanic deck chairs. The reforms don't generally filter down to better organisation of services, better knowledge of what each other does. It's still very much a siloed system. Until we have a better sense of a holistic approach to care, we need to be preventative, but that means winding back the clock to teenagers.
I don't think there's any one single point of intervention, all of the drivers of growing costs. But essentially, we need to be able to focus on those populations that are at the greatest risk of avoidable, preventable chronic conditions or admissions to hospital, because the most costly part of our healthcare system is public hospitals. The combined expenditure of Commonwealth and state governments on public hospital care alone is $45 billion a year. So you need to understand the drivers. We need to embrace technology. Healthcare as an industry has not been as embracing of contemporary information technology as other sectors of the economy have been.
But I think there's certainly opportunities for us to look at innovative funding models and ways of delivering care. And essentially that's what we decided to do several years ago at Medibank.
The role of business and the role of employers are not only in maximising the health and productivity of their individual employees, but also the overall contribution that can make to business growth and economic growth across the economy. If a person is able to get a good support, access to care, a destigmatised work environment, time off when they need to, then they're far more likely to be able to return to work recovered, supported in the workplace, contribute productively as individuals to the enterprise. Employers have got an incredible opportunity to, I guess in many ways, achieve a triple bottom line.
Businesses and employers having a big role in pushing the corporate wellness agenda. I think it's an area that we really haven't explored that well.
We've got a very strongly, I think, held view now around the universal healthcare system, Medicare and what goes around it. But I also think we've got a very strong and long-standing tradition of private healthcare sitting along part of that. So I think that's very much in the psyche of the Australian. I do think private healthcare is part of that. I mean, 50% of Australians now have, more than 50% have got private health insurance. A huge component of elective surgery is done in the private sector. I mean, if the private sector somehow got swallowed up somehow, that's going to place a massive burden on the public system.
There's room for greater collaboration between the public and private sector, and I think in pretty much every jurisdiction in the country, we're seeing a far more active, engaged and sustained role for private financing and private sector to deliver what have been traditionally public sector services, and I think we'll see more of that.